Hi, friends. It's Thursday, the 6th of May. Uh, yeah. And we are trying to get some spring around here. It's been chilly and gray and sometimes foggy and looking for a little sunshine. I have seen a few trillium popping out, but can't wait for the whole fields of them. They're so beautiful. So I'm reading Ladder to the Light, an Indigenous Elders Meditation on Hope and Courage. And I'm thinking we need a little of that these days. He is talking about a kiva, where you go down the ladder and into the sacred space, down in the earth. And this is where he continues from yesterday. Some people who knew me wanted me to join them on Facebook, but I did not want to be on social media. They persisted, saying I needed to catch up to the rest of the world in technology. Finally, I relented, but after I had been cajoled into it, I had no idea what to post. By nature, I'm an introvert. I'm not good at making small talk, and if you are familiar with Facebook, you will understand when I say I have no pictures of cats to share. That's great. Once I had created my account, I stared at the blank screen, wondering what to write. I did not think my life was all that interesting, so I decided to simply write down whatever came into my mind each morning after my prayers. Day after day, morning after morning, I say my prayers, outside if weather permits, in a traditional Native American way. I start by acknowledging the 4 sacred directions that encompass my life in the holy geometry of creation. Then I acknowledge the earth beneath me and the sky above me. And finally, I speak to the Spirit in humility and remain silent to hear what reply comes into my heart. It is these replies, these brief messages from the Spirit, that I have decided to share on Facebook. For over 10 years, I've been posting them. At first, only a handful of people noticed. Now, thousands of people read them daily. This still amazes me. I would never have thought of connecting Native American tradition to Facebook, but it has happened because while I am the writer of these words, I'm not necessarily their author. I believe a spirit inspires what I write, not because the language is so eloquent, or the meaning so profound, but because the words seem to help people from many walks of life. Perhaps they will help you too. Perhaps that is why you have picked up this book. This book is a collection of the Spirit's messages, arranged in sequence like a ladder, one rung after another. I began writing this simply by following a year's worth of messages I had shared on Facebook, as if they were rungs on a ladder. I imagined I was in a kiva, in the place of spiritual beginnings. Then I started climbing up the Spirit's messages to see where they led. The result is a series of sacred messages linked together to form a ladder we can use in finding our way out of darkness and into light. Chapter rung is the one is the rung of faith. The ascent to light begins within each of us. It is our ability to trust what we cannot see. Chapter 2 invites us to step onto the rung of blessing. The strength to climb is a gift we receive. It is the acceptance of grace as a reality, not a wish. Chapter 3 is the rung of hope. The more we climb out of darkness, the more we see the light to come. It is the dream unique to every human soul. Chapter 4 then shows us the rung of community. As we climb, we recognize that we are not alone. Community sustains us. The climb we make is not easy, so Chapter 5 calls us to step onto the rung of action. It changes the shape of reality and confronts the powers that seek to keep us in darkness. Chapter 6 is the rung of truth. The integrity of the climb we make is measured by the nature of the light we seek. It is the honesty of the journey, not the destination, that matters. Chapter 7 is the rung of renewal. As we near the end of our climb, we realize we have been changed. We see clearly because we are looking through the eyes of hope. Chapter 8, The Rung of Transformation, means our climb is ending. It is ending in the emergence from darkness into light. It is what we all create together when we give more than we take. As I climb the rungs of these messages, I pause to write my own commentary about them. If you are a movie fan, this may be easy to understand. Many films offer a version in which the director comments on the movie as you watch it. What you will find in these pages is similar. You will be reading the messages I receive from the Spirit, woven together with my interpretations of them. You will see the Spirit's words of inspiration, the writings I describe as messages, in italics, and my own reflections and interpretations in regular print. Taken together, the Spirit's messages and my commentary are the ladder. Just as you might do when you climb any ladder, feel free to take breaks in your ascent. Pause on any given rung to catch your breath or to meditate before taking the next step. If a particular message seems to capture your imagination, stop reading and take the time to dwell within that message. That might take an hour, or it might take a day. Time is not as important as meaning. Take what I share here and make it your own. The kiva and the ladder are the sacred metaphors I use to describe a spiritual process that can take any person of any faith tradition from the darkness of worry to the light of hope. The vision of the kiva is not for me alone, but for every person who picks up this book and begins their own climb to understanding. If I learned anything over the last decade of sharing messages with listeners, it is that the messages I share and the images they create are capable of being translated into an infinite number of personal journeys and faith traditions. Consequently, when I speak of the Spirit in this book, which I will do a lot, I need to be clear about to whom I am referring. When I transcribe what I call messages from the Spirit, capital S, I use broad language for the sacred. I did this unconsciously at the start, but I have continued to do it because I want as many people as possible to feel at home in my writing. I use the word Spirit as a marker, a placeholder, for the conscious, spiritual presence many people from different religious traditions would call God or the Creator. Full disclosure, I believe most people of faith are not one-dimensional beings. Instead, we are made up of many different spiritual practices and a lifetime of experience. We are the sum of many parts. For example, I am a Christian, and many years ago I was ordained as an Episcopal priest on the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation. I have served as the Episcopal Bishop of Alaska. I've been a professor in various academic institutions, and I have fulfilled administrative roles for seminaries and for the Episcopal Church. I am also a follower of my Native American tradition. I'm an elder in the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma, and I believe in my ancestors' faith as embodied in many different tribal traditions and ceremonies. Finally, I am a practitioner of Zen meditation. I honor the teachings of the Buddha. For me, the Spirit has many meanings that arise from this ground of faith. The Spirit I refer to can represent the Holy Spirit of the Christians, the Great Spirit of traditional Native American wisdom, or the Buddha nature in all living beings. For some, the Spirit may signify the underlying force that binds all life together, like the Tao. It can be understood as God or Allah by Jews and Muslims. It can embody Brahman for Hindus. It can be a collective human spirit for humanists. I intentionally leave the interpretation open because my messages are not dogmatic. That is, they do not demand conformity to any one system of belief. Theological debates are for another day. My messages are spiritual invitations to any person who can find themselves in the words I share. In this book, I want to throw the doors open as wide as I can to welcome people from every walk of life. This ladder, these messages are meant for all of us, the human family, the tribe of the human beings. So although I may write about the Spirit from my own spiritual context, for example, I come from a matrilineal culture, so I refer to the Spirit as she. I want every reader to feel free to interpret the nature and meaning of the Spirit for themselves. Very good. So, you will have to interpret that the way you would for yourself. Perhaps you draw on some different traditions as he does, even if your primary tradition might be Christian, and that we might say the Spirit is Holy Spirit. But we know that we can call the Trinity she, God, Spirit too. Not Jesus, of course, but Jesus had feminine characteristics, feminine understanding, as I will preach about this Sunday on Mother's Day, so you could tune in to see about that. But we tend to put and Saturday we'll start with the first rung of the ladder. I hope you have a great day.